The February 12th County Commission meeting will please come to order. We have the invocation by Reverend Tom Harris of the First Presbyterian Church, and we have Commissioner Wesley Davis, Vice Chairman, doing the pledge. Please stand.
Good morning, and thank you all for inviting me here. Let us come together with a word of prayer. Gracious God, we are thankful for so many of the great blessings you give us in life, for this wonderful place where we live that reminds us so much of your goodness, of your love for us. We thank you for the people you've placed in our lives, these leaders that stand before us today. We thank you, God, for the ways that you place people before us to lead us and guide and direct us. We're thankful, God, for so many of the great things you do. The scriptures tell us there's nowhere that we can go to hide from you, yet it's often us who act as if it's you that's hidden from us. Lord, we respond to anger with anger. We respond to harsh words with harsh words. We respond to unkindness with our own unkindness. Lord, in none of those things will we discover your presence. Help us, God, as we go about our affairs today, not only in this meeting, but even as we leave here, that we might treat each other with love, with kindness, with patience, with gentleness and respect, that we might look out for the other instead of looking out for ourselves. And as we do this, Lord, help us that we would grow together as a community, and in that we might also discover you anew and afresh. For all this we pray in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh boy.
You put that on your side. No, I think that might get a good one. Don't do that.
Additions, deletions to the agenda, emergency items, anyone? I would like to announce that we will be taking a break at about 10:15. We have a 10:30 conference. We have our winter guest, who Winter's here, the first baby boomer, will be receiving today her check for Social Security. And that will, in the nation, yes.
The nation's first baby boomer.
Yes, and that will happen in Building B at 10:30. So we'll take a break and go over and say hello to her if that's
absolutely,
appropriate. Thank you. So remind me if I don't.
10:15.
10:15. Proclamations and presentations. It's our delight this morning to see so many of you, and Commissioner Flesher will handle this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have the distinct pleasure and honor of presenting three proclamations honoring three fine individuals who made something very significant happen in Indian River County over 10 years ago. The first one, and Freddie, would you assist me in, do we have a recipient for Dr. William Nye? Most certainly. Ma'am, would you please come up to accept the presentation? And I'll read the proclamation. No, you can stand at the podium, please. And if I can maybe say a few words after you receive the proclamation.
Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for being here. This proclamation reads as follows. We're celebrating the Gifted Youth Activity Center's anniversary and honoring the memory of Dr. William Nye for his outstanding service. Whereas the future course of Indian River County, Florida, and our nation rests on the shoulders of our youth, and educated, confident, nurtured children will give rise to the stronger community. And whereas the Gifted Youth Activity Center has been providing state-of-the-art services to children, adults, and families of Indian River County since February 1998. And whereas the vision of the Gifted Youth Activity Center is to promote a foundation whereby the multiple barriers faced by our community may be alleviated and or replaced by the goals of promoting the ability of adults and youth to live in a productive community. And whereas Dr. William Nye's character, devotion to youth, and tremendous compassion for these less fortunate was instrumental in the foundation of the Gifted Youth Activity Center. And whereas Dr. William Nye served as the senior minister of the community church in Vero Beach before passing away at age 52 on September 27, 2001. And whereas Dr. William Nye will always be remembered for his commitment to outreach programs, including the foundation of tutoring and mentoring program in the Indian River County School District and his involvement with the Homeless Task Force. And whereas this board wishes to honor the legacy of Dr. William Nye for the way in which he cared for the community and for his dedication in making the county a better place to live. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that the board honors the memory of Dr. William Nye for his hard work, commitment to the community, and commends the Gifted Youth Activity Center for 10 years of exceptional service. Signed this date, 12th day of February 2008, by all 5 county commissioners. Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Fred.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next proclamation I have to read is and present is for Dr. No, we have the next one will be for Ronald Hudson. This proclamation, thank you for coming today. This proclamation is celebrating the Gifted Youth Activity Center's 10th anniversary and honoring Ronald Hudson for his outstanding service. Whereas the future course of Indian River County, Florida, and our nation rests on the soldiers of our youth, and educated, confident, and nurtured children will give rise to a stronger community. And whereas the Gifted Youth Activity Center has been providing state-of-the-art services to children, adults, and families of Indian River County since February 1998. And whereas the vision of Gifted Youth Activity Center is to promote a foundation whereby the multiple barriers faced by our community will be alleviated or replaced by the goals promoting the ability of adults and youth to live in a productive community. And whereas Dr. A. Ronald Hudson, awareness of Gifted Youth Activities needs, leadership, and strong determination brought the Gifted Youth Activity Center to an exceptional facility, providing a strong foundation for the youth in our community. Whereas Dr. A. Ronald Hudson has worked as a community servant in many different capacities, both public and private, and volunteered for many organizations, including the Indian River County Habitat for Humanity, Gifted Community Center Advisory Commission, and served as the chairman for the Gifted Youth Activity Center for 6 years. And whereas Dr. A. Ronald Hudson has been a strong influence to the entire community, and his dedication and selflessness is greatly appreciated. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that the Board expresses its appreciation and admiration for Dr. A. Ronald Hudson for his hard work and commitment to the community, and commends the Gifted Youth Activity Center for 10 years of exceptional service. Signed this 12th day of February 2008 by all 5 county commissioners. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you. Yeah. Do you like to say something? Oh, yes.
like to take this opportunity to thank the commissioners for this recognition. It's ironic today that 12 years ago that Dr. William Nye, Mr. Dan Richardson, and I sat to formalize an idea to make the Gifford community and Indian River County a better place for citizens to live. It took 2 years to kind of build the idea, and of course I had two gentlemen that would not stop. They would continue to proceed with the idea that we were going to get it done. It took us 2 years to get the first phase of the building constructed, and after that, of course, we got started. But I'd like to just say publicly this morning that we had the idea. The seed was planted by the three of us, but we could not have constructed that facility, and we could not have been successful as we have been without you. And I want to acknowledge and extend my appreciation to the board, to the staff, and to all of the organizations in Indian River County, both public and private, who have given so much to make sure that that facility continue to do what we expected it to do. And may I also just say to you that I know on January the 29th, the taxpayers in the state of Florida approved an amendment. And we all know that we have some challenges in regard to budgetary constraints. And we know that we will have to adjust to those. But I hope that this board and the generous people in Indian River County will continue to support us and provide that extra need that we have so that we can continue to improve the quality of life for those young people in Indian River County and their families. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Madam Chair, I have the distinct privilege and honor of reading the final proclamation for the commemoration of the 10th anniversary. And that proclamation will be for Dan K. Richardson. And this proclamation is in celebration for the Gifford Youth Activity Center's 10th anniversary and honoring Dan K. Richardson for his outstanding service. Whereas the future course of Indian River County, Florida, and our nation rests on the shoulders of our youth, educated, confident, and nurtured children, and will give rise to a stronger community. And whereas the Gifford Youth Activity Center has been providing state-of-the-art services for adults, children, families of Indian River County since 1998. And whereas the vision of the Gifford Youth Activity Center is to promote a foundation whereby the multiple barriers faced by our community may be alleviated or replaced by goals promoting the ability of youths and adults to live in a productive community. And whereas Dan K. Richardson has been a resident of Indian River County for 61 years and has participated in many of the elements that make our community such a special place, including participating in the campaign to rebuild Riverside Theater and the Center of the Arts. And whereas Dan K. Richardson's sense of caring, enthusiasm, and ability to facilitate united efforts enabled the Gifford Youth Activity Center to become an exceptional facility providing services that enhance the lives of the children and families in our community. Whereas Dan K. Richardson's great love for the field of education encouraged him and his wife, Marjorie, to create Richardson Scholarship Foundation, which emphasizes not only academic excellence, but encourages young leaders. And whereas Dan K. Richardson's compassionate nature and commitment to family, educated and community service is greatly appreciated. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that the Board expresses its appreciation and admiration to Dan K. Richardson for his hard work and commitment to the community, and commends the Gifted Youth Activity Center for over 10 years of exceptional service. Dated this 12th day of February 2008, signed by all 5 county commissioners.
Thank you again. Oh, thank you, Freddie. Good morning, Mr. Richardson.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, if I could just say a few words.
Yes, and I'd like to also.
Sure.
Mr. Richardson is a past chairman of the Indian River County School Board and a very much beloved member of this community, and we are so glad to see him here this morning.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. And Madam Chair, if I could just add, the individuals that were just named here, they were true visionaries in our community, and they had the vision to do something that will certainly set us apart from other communities for years to come. And because of those actions, they have quite honestly have built a legacy of their own, not intending to, but simply having the vision, making the commitment to the vision to bring it to fruition. It has created a legacy for each one of these individuals. And I'm humbled to say that I knew all of them and know all of them. And I'd just like to add a little special thank you also to Mr. Richardson. As it was mentioned in the Richardson Scholarship Foundation, I had the opportunity in 1988 to be a graduate of Vero Beach High School and to be one of the scholarship recipients, and because of that I'd like to say thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd just like to echo what both have said. I've lived here for 37 years, and there's icons in every community, and Mr. Richardson and Mr. Hudson, along with people like Emily Loy and others, are icons. They are the first names you heard when you came to Vero Beach, and they've done wonderful things for this community, and I think it's an honor and a privilege to be sitting here and be a part of commending those individuals for the work they've done in Indian River County.
And Freddie, you do good work too.
Thank you.
And you have a wonderful voice.
Thank you. I just want to say 3 things. Number one, I want to take this opportunity to introduce to Indian River County and our Board of County Commissioners our new Executive Director. She was up just now helping with the proclamation, and that's Miss Angela Perry. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
While I'm also standing, I want to take this opportunity to just have our other board members who are a great force behind the success of Gifted Youth Activity Center. Just raise your hand, the board members and volunteers. We also have our board chair with us today, Mr. John Dean. And we're inviting Indian River County out to our 10th year celebration on February 15th, Friday at 10 o'clock. Also on Saturday at 10 o'clock. We want you to come out and enjoy the festivities and just wish us 10 more years and 10 more years and on and on and on and on. So you have an open invitation, the county commission officers and community at large to please come out and help us celebrate. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. We'll be there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Freddie.
Our next proclamation and presentation is a proclamation celebrating presentation by the Indian River Soccer Association, and we would like to have that now. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr.
I've been coaching with Teddy for many, many years.
We'll get you, Teddy.
I think Teddy's working on being an icon in the future.
Oh, he is, definitely. Just a quick thing. Neil Hockenhall and I wanted to come by on behalf of Indian River Soccer Association and just kind of close the loop. We had come here last year asking for some help in doing some things we were doing out there, taking care of the 1,100 kids and so forth. And it all culminated with redoing the fields out there and lighting the fields. And I just want to let you guys know it was all done. It came in at budget. And because of this, there are numerous opportunities for outside groups around the state of Florida to be using our facilities and coming here and spending long weekends and utilizing all our great assets of Indian River County and adding value to Indian River County, both economically as well as just spreading the word of what a great place this is. The other point I wanted to make was I wanted to let you guys know what a great asset Joe Baird is. So many intangibles went into this, and it just seemed like every time we were kind of stuck or lost, since we had never done anything like this before, Mr. Baird was there to help us, to give us some encouragement, and to kind of whisper in our ear, you know, how to approach things. And I just wanted to, in today's day and age, when 95 or 100% of the things you read and hear are negative, I think it's very important that from a positive standpoint, we let people know what a great job these people are doing. And I also want to thank each and every commissioner for spending personal time, individually, as a group, and actually coming out to our celebration, because, you know, it's a lot of times you get a lot of lip service from a lot of different things, but you all stepped up and got to understand it, got to feel it, got to know it, and I just want to thank you all very much. And this is Neil Hockenhall. He's got a few things to say.
Thank you, Mr. Becker.
Commissioners, I'd like to echo that. We just want to thank you guys for being able to provide the funding for the lighting. And we wanted to let, even though most of you already know, we wanted to let the public know as well that, you know, because of the lighting and whatnot and the association, that we are actually giving back to the county. And one of the things that we're doing is hosting tournaments, and we've done it in the past, but it's been limited because we haven't had the lighting, obviously with the size of the facility as well. But March 1st and 2nd, we are hosting Regional Cup here in Indian River County. And that is for Region B, which extends, we're the southernmost county. It extends all the way up to the county line, or the state line with Georgia, all the way down to Orlando and down. We have 70 teams coming in, that about 54 of which will be staying here. Some of them are local, upwards north into Melbourne and that kind of thing. But 54 teams, probably in the neighborhood of 1,800 to 1,900 people are going to be in this county for the two-day event, staying Friday and Saturday night. We've had a problem with hotel rooms, but we've got it all worked out. So we just wanted to just let everybody know about the somewhat of the economic impact that brings to the county. I've spoken with Rich Nalbandian from the Treasure Coast Sports Commission, who is helpful. And the economic impact of this, conservatively speaking, is about $139,000 to the county. So we just wanted to let everybody know that thanks to the efforts of you all and whatnot, that our program is a good thing, and it's actually providing good service to the county as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
That's a question.
certainly.
Bill, what's your budget up there annually?
Well, right now, I think our break-even, Neil, why don't you tell me? Well, I'll tell you how much money he tells us we need to raise.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we spend about $70,000 a year just maintaining the facility, and obviously none of that is from county funds.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that is a very important point, that we are self-sufficient. We do come for capital funding from time to time, but the administration of the program and the operation of the program actually don't cost the county taxpayer anything.
And you provide a great service for the young people. And
we got over 1,100 children.
Yeah.
Briefly, Bill and I and a few others have started the Indian River Soccer Association Foundation. We are this spring paying for about 30 kids from disadvantaged homes and whatnot, and in the fall we hope to have that up to about 100 children. So Anybody interested can visit that site as it's being built at irsafoundation.org.
Well, along with you thanking us, I wanted to thank you and Bill and all of you with that association for the work you do, the money you raise, and the fact that we're kind of in a partnership with you rather than total support.
Commissioner Davis?
And that's exactly the point that I'd like to make with other organizations. For example, if they didn't provide this services, the taxpayers of Indian River County would. And I would be afraid to see the price tag of actually, staffing and everything associated with what y'all do, much less just the hard dollars in maintenance. And that goes along with like things that the Humane Society does they provide services that we would have to in the event that y'all didn't. So I think we're going to see more and more of the kind of relationships that we've created and had successfully with the Soccer Association.
And that's another reason that we are a really blessed community and have leadership like you gentlemen give to the children. It is a gift, and we thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank you for the kind words. I'm not used to kind words, so.
Boy, that's the truth.
I'd like to say, this is a perfect example of a public-private partnership that saves the community a fortune. We couldn't do it without the tremendous volunteers on the Soccer Association. We've costed out, if we ran that program, it would cost us $300,000 to $400,000 between the referees, maintenance people, and things like that. It's we've got to thank all the soccer volunteers, the parents, and especially y'all have been in your position, and it's not easy with volunteers and parents. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. We have another presentation by Mr. Joe Ehrman and Toby Turner on Firefighters Indian River County Fair, which is another fun thing. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Commissioner. My name is Joe Ehrman, President of Indian River County Fair Association. I have with me Toby Turner, Indian River County Fair Manager. And I think what we've just seen with the Soccer Association and the Gifford Youth Activity Center, that there is a lot of good things that happen in Indian River County, and I think we're here to present one more good thing. The fair is in its 28th year of existence, and it's been run by the firefighters from 1980 on, when it started in its humble beginnings out at the Vero Beach Airport and moved to the county fairgrounds back in the early 80s. Again, this is our 28th year. The fair has been a successful event, and we continue to hopefully see the fair move on into the future. The fair, just like the Soccer Association and the rest of the things, is a joint partnership between the county and the firefighters, and that's what makes it a success. Mr. Baird, I want to commend you and your staff, especially the Parks Department, on the fine job that they do out at the fairgrounds of helping us and giving us a hand and making sure everything's run well and the grounds are in perfect shape. And I think we continue this relationship for a long time. But on behalf of the Indian River County Fair Association, the profits for the county for this year, the 1/3 profits with our contract, I want to present the commission a check for $17,291, and hopefully on the consent agenda you'll approve our next 3-year agreement for the fair. So on behalf of the Fair Association, I'd like to present Mrs. Bowden this check.
Oh, thank you. Do you want your hands on it?
I'm just going to sign the back of it.
Now, Toby's going to let y'all know what's going on.
Put it in the bank, Joe.
Fair, and talk about anything else that's going on. So, well,
Thank you. You can't go to the drive-through with that, Joe.
Thank you very much for allowing us to be here, and I appreciate your support in the event. As you know, since 2005, we've not had the main exhibit building at the fairgrounds. Mr. Baird's office has worked over the last number of years to make any requests that I have asked for. His group has assisted us in that, and I thank you for that. The Parks Department, the Recreation, whoever it would be, that we needed to do something at the fairgrounds because we didn't have those income and revenue coming in for the last 3 years. We do now. The jail facility has moved out, and they are now at the new facility, and so we have lease space available to vendors and merchants and all of our competitive exhibits that we're required to have under State Statute 616 here in the state of Florida. With our monies the last number of years that we've given from our 1/3 net profit, we're starting to do some infrastructure at the grounds. One of those things now will be, the new season will be new electric and water inside the main grounds. We're running out of space for electricity, so we're having to do some new improvements at the grounds. I'll be getting with Mr. Fleetwood with the Parks Department, and hopefully those things will continue to grow. Our fair is March 14th through the 22nd, and we're looking forward to a good season again. We have a lot of opportunities. We've not raised gate prices. We've not raised ticket prices. We're continuing to honor the citizens of this community and provide them support. So whether we make money or not, our goal is to assist this community, coming together as a family and doing things that are important for this community. And we thank you for your support.
Well, we thank you. And that's just right around the corner.
It is.
March the 14th.
It is.
Thank you, and I hope to see everyone there.
Yes.
Toby, in addition to obviously some of the livestock exhibits and such as that, you're going to have some new exhibits this year. Why don't you take this opportunity to do a shameless plug for some of the new exhibits?
Well, we do have our, as we know, in the last number of years, we've not had some of the competitive exhibits, which are required to have under State Statute 616, which is agricultural items, maybe canning, quilting, crafts, photography. Those things will be back again this year in the exhibit building. The citrus tree display. We have a lot of livestock under the barn, which will have, of course, swine, steers, rabbits, poultry, those types of things that are required also under state statute. Vendors will be inside the exhibit building, maybe showing their wares, and we have several grounds attractions that will be here all week for people to view. One of them will be it's called Cowtown. It is a agricultural, hands-on display for people and young children who can come out to the fairgrounds. They can milk cows. They can take that milk and make butter. They can then make ice cream and show how the products go all along with livestock. We have a firefighter training show where young children can dress up as firefighters. They can shoot water. They can drag dummies from smoke. They can use fire extinguishers. They learn to stop, drop, and roll. So these are hands-on experience that young children
See what you can do out there,
Oh,
Wesley?
I'm going to be at Connie. I'll be out there for the entire time. So.
And we also have a sand sculpture that will be there. That'll be on display all week long. So we have a lot of activities happening. Hope people will come out, support the fair, and that's what we're here for the community.
Oh, thank you very much again.
Thanks very much for your time.
And this is another one of those relationships. The firemen, they handle the midway side of it. Then they've got a livestock association that handles the livestock side of it.
Correct.
And it's been a very good relationship as far as anything the livestock association needs has been taken care of. In fact, some of the electric issues that hopefully are going to be addressed are some of the issues that we're going to be able to put these proceeds to at the fairgrounds.
And while I'm here, I might as well just continue and mention that, as you know, the Fair Board, Recreation Department, planning, a lot of different people got together to make our new fairground model plan. Mr. Davis's office has gotten with several groups and took out bid process, and so now we're looking forward to have a master plan for the fairgrounds so that we can begin to build infrastructure and continue in the right direction and having that be a good source of revenue for the community from here on out.
Thank you. We'll see you the 14th.
Hope so.
Toby?
Yes.
In the past, I did enjoy the luxury of volunteering at the fairgrounds.
Yes.
Are you still accepting applications
We are
for
accepting
volunteer
volunteers for anyone
assistance
that wants to
for the
come out.
fair?
We always need assistance somewhere on the grounds, whether it's at the front gate, helping to sell tickets or collect tickets,
Dunkin' booth.
firefighter's food booth,
Dunkin' booth.
anywhere on picking up trash and livestock area, whatever we need. We're always using volunteers.
Where could people?
They can go to the fair website, firefightersfair.org, and you can get on the Contact Us page and send me an email, and I'll tell you how you can help.
Thank you.
Thank you, Toby.
Thank
Good
you,
to
Toby.
see you.
I think Toby, the fair would not be a success without Toby. He's extremely dedicated and organized. If you've ever seen him out there, he works like
Absolutely.
he's moving constant.
That's why he's gray now.
Don't try to talk to him while he's at the fair. He's all work.
Okay, thank you again. Approval of the minutes of regular meeting, January 22,
Move approval.
08. All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Thank you. Consent agenda. Would anyone like to pull? Mr.
Madam Chair?
O'Brien, we'll start at this end and come down and see if anybody would. Would you like to pull anything? Mr. Flesher?
Madam Chair, I'd like to pull F Foxtrot, G Golf, H Hotel.
F, G, and H.
That's correct now.
All right. And Mr. Davis?
No, ma'am.
Commissioner Wheeler?
No?
Okay, then.
Move approval as amended.
I'll second that.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Thank you. And we have first F,
That would be F Foxtrot.
whatever you want to call it, F.
And that consent agenda item was the out-of-county travel to attend the NPOAC Weekend Institute for elected officials. In looking at the request, I did see that it was dedicated to one county commissioner. I do not have any interest in going to that educational endeavor, and I believe that it's very warranted, but I would feel more comfortable if the wording afforded all county commissioners to attend, since it is open to all county commissioners, as other travel requests are done.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
Anybody else have any comment? May I have a motion?
Move to approve as amended.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Thank you very much. G,
Madam Chair, item G on the consent agenda is to modify the resolution for 2008 on the Economic Development Council, memorandum dated February 5th, 2008. And the memorandum clearly states the intentions of the county commission to widen the scope and attendance for a more well-founded committee. However, it does state the Workforce Development Board of the Treasure Coast be represented, and I also serve on the Workforce Development Board for the Treasure Coast, and I appreciate the presence. I think it's very well needed. However, I would like to see that the membership or the committee member assigned be a citizen of Indian River County. I'm a strong supporter of the citizen committees, but I believe that the vested interest should be in a citizen input as opposed to someone from another jurisdiction that might not have the full understanding of what is happening here in Indian River County.
Madam Chair, this request was from the actual Economic Development Council Committee. If you recall, a few weeks ago, we came to you with a request to expand it to include Indian River Shores, the town of Orchid, and a member of the Workforce Development Board. The Workforce Development Board is a regional agency, and in today's day and age, when you talk about economic development, you have to have a regional input. And certainly, I know a lot of our committees, we do require local residents in the county, but in this particular case, out of the that 18 positions, they are asking that, we waive the residence requirement for the one member, since the Treasure Coast Workforce Board is a regional board. Ms. Thompson is the director of that, and the council feels very important to have her input. So I would like to see the motion go through as presented.
Well, I attend the monthly meetings, and most certainly it's not uncommon to see 60 members from all over the Treasure Coast, and I do feel that there are a few members here in Indian River County that would like the opportunity to stand on the board, and I don't think it would be a difficult endeavor to accomplish, to have someone that represents the Workforce Development Council and in addition be a citizen of Indian River County.
could it be possible that Glenda Thompson, and she is an outstanding, I've worked with her for years, person. It could be an ex officio of this, and we could then have, enlarge this a little bit and have an ex officio member, because she is the CEO, and then have somebody from the county, or what is your pleasure? I can't make a motion.
I think the important thing is, if we're talking about a regional perspective and we only have people from our county, where are we getting regional perspective from? I think Ms. Thompson, since she does work regionally, will help bring that regional perspective in.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, I would agree with that. In fact, we had the summit down in St. Lucie County a few months ago, and one of the things that we discussed, and I served on the panel and also with the Economic Development Board that was created after that, and the whole take on that basically was to, when it comes to economic development and jobs and so on and so forth, to try to work together with the counties and not think so much of county lines and protecting your own territory. I also think that because she is regional and covers the whole area here with the different counties, that it gives a different perspective too, and her input to the board. So I would agree with Commissioner O'Brien that, and I don't think that being a citizen necessarily gives you an edge on what we need to do. I think we're trying to think out of the box and come up with things that work for economic development and also in the enterprise zone. And I think outside input's a positive thing because they have experiences from other areas that can help service us.
Maybe we need to amend this resolution then. That doesn't mention regional. Just a thought. We've not discussed this. Commissioner Davis?
Well, I'm looking at this to accomplish what Commissioner Fletcher's saying, basically A through F do that. But just because it asks for representatives from the local banking industry doesn't mean anything about an Indian River County residents. Neither does G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, or excuse me, P is, Q, R, and then S. I mean, none of that stipulates anything about them living or where they would reside. So I don't know whether just amending what Commissioner Fletcher is talking about would even address his concern. I mean, clearly a representative from Sebastian River Area Chamber of Commerce could go into Brevard County because, in fact, that's where their Chamber of Commerce does go up into the southern end of it. So, I mean...
Well, if you read the resolution, and I think it's set up according to the resolution, and the resolution does state, I don't want to get into semantics here, but the different municipalities in the county.
Right, and that's A through F. But when you jump over to, anyhow.
Right, I mean,
the rest of them are...
Yeah, I think with this board, we're looking at ways to capitalize and improve economic development. And I think that the more people and even diverse backgrounds and people that live in other counties can be very important to the think tank to make things happen for economic development. I think sometimes we cut ourselves short by limiting it to citizens of Indian River County. I think that other people bring ideas with them from other counties of what they
do. We sit on any of the other counties' boards? Any of our community people? Well,
the only thing that we have right now that I'm aware of, and of course the workforce board, we have representation from this county, all the counties, and the summit they had a few months ago down at the college. That's all the counties working together, and one of probably the main thing that came out of that summit was that when it comes to economic development, we need to start thinking regional and not thinking county lines. We need to work together back and forth because the employees seeking jobs go back and forth over the county lines to work, and I think that we need to think regional. We need to think the Treasure Coast and not just Indian River County.
Most certainly, and I believe that a member of the Workforce Development Council of the Treasure Coast will bring that spirit forward, being such a large organization, and I believe that we're setting precedent by opening up a local committee or council to out-of-regional residents or regional residents and out-of-county residents. And this may apply to other committees and councils that we host here in Indian River County. And I believe that this is the very first.
May I ask, what do you hope to accomplish by eliminating people from other counties?
There is no elimination. That's a poor choice of words.
Voting member of the committee. I think we're looking for brain power. We're looking for ideas.
I'm very, very supportive of the workforce development membership. I serve on the board as well, but I just believe that we were setting precedent just in the mechanism by having someone out of county representing the county residents within the county for decisions for the county. They can bring the spirit of the workforce development from out of county. Most certainly, that's the intent, and I believe that that's accomplished. But I think a requirement should be that they be Indian River County residents. And this is the very first exception that we would be making, and I feel that it's going to apply to other committees, and where we draw the line. I believe it would be very easily accomplished to have someone from workforce development serve on the council and be a resident at the same time.
Well, can we leave it as if Glenda Thompson can find someone to serve, fine. If not, she is an outstanding person.
Right, and I think as executive director, she has access to more day-to-day information that would be of importance to the committee, just like Mr. Baird probably has his thumb on a lot more details than any of us sitting here, and So when you ask questions, he would have more answers. And
that's why I wonder how she would have time to do all this.
well, she
goes all up and
has
down
volunteered. She has
Oh, she
committed.
has?
Oh yeah, she's been attending the meetings. We're just trying to make her an official member at this point. So
I'll move approval of Resolution 2008-003.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Thank you very much. And one more, which is H.
Madam Chair, thank you. Consent agenda item H is out-of-county travel for commissioners and staff to attend the 2008 Governor's Baseball Dinner. I'd just like to know what benefit that will be delivered to the citizens by attendance. It is a baseball, it's a dinner. It occurs in Tampa. I truly don't see an educational benefit. There is a reasonable expense to the taxpayer. I believe it's open to the administrator and staff and county commissioners, and I believe in these stressed economic times that this would be perceived as a luxury attendance. Now, I was in my dining room reading the agenda, as I often do, and I looked at it and I said, at $100 to go, and then the travel, which would be a few $100s, would I be willing to go to the baseball dinner? Would I perceive a benefit to go to baseball dinner for several $100s? And perhaps it's on the other side of the state, and it's a few hours travel in each direction. You might be compelled to have to stay overnight after indulging in the festivities and the dinner. And I just feel it's a tremendous cost to the taxpayer, and we have to begin to bear down. We're facing tremendous fiscal decisions, and I just don't see the benefit in going over to the other side of the state for a baseball.
I take it you're not going to go.
We have one locally, with some reservation. Yes, I will not be attending.
Okay.
On my own or on the taxpayer
I started to
dollar.
call you Commissioner Baird. You don't want it that name, though, do you, Mr. Baird?
I put this on the agenda. The Dodgers, this is to kick off spring training statewide. The governor is going to be there. A lot of people involved in baseball are going to be there. This is more to get more involved. A lot of the people got involved. They got state funding towards their stadium and things like that. We were trying to get involved. This is part of the Grapefruit League. When we go to market and try and attract outside and teams like that, it's going to incur a little bit of money, and I don't think that $200 or $300. I think you'd be short-sighted if you looked at everything like that. Because when you're trying to market and get involved and attract teams and be involved in funding, very large funding towards baseball, this was just, and I don't need to go, it's not a big issue to me, but I thought we need to show involvement. We need to show that we want to be involved in spring training. We want to attract teams. We want to keep the economy rolling. And this is the kickoff that the governor holds for baseball statewide. And all the teams are going to be there, as well as people involved. And I thought it would be in our best interest. But I don't have to attend it. It's not a big issue with me.
We do have a dinner locally, though, at the Dodgers.
We do?
As far as a grand opening?
We don't. I've never been to dinner.
I believe everyone was at the opening last year.
The baseball?
Yes.
I've never attended.
That's the local team to welcome them.
I went to a fundraiser.
We welcome them, yes. Yes, we did.
Usually the first game of the year, which is, I think, next week, is it? There's the kick.
So we could welcome them at the local level.
Madam Chair,
Well, Commissioner Wheeler is chomping at the bit here.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah.
I talked to Mr. Baird about this the other day when I read the material and got an explanation. I have no interest in going, but Mr. Baird has been diligently working on the situation with the Dodgers and other teams, and the governor's there, and I think this is an opportunity for networking that could be a benefit to what we have here as an asset with the stadium. And I think, and I don't care who goes, I'm certainly not going, but I think it could be a tremendous benefit for networking. I think for the chair to go but particularly for Joe Baird to go, and talk with these people. I think it's money well spent that can, and in fact, I would request that Mr. Baird at least would go.
Commissioner Davis?
I don't have any comment on this.
Commissioner?
I just concur with Mr. Baird and Commissioner Wheeler. I think it would send a bigger message by not being there and not showing interest in the baseball industry here in Florida. We are in the midst of negotiating with a future team. The impact of that is millions of dollars to the local economy, and I agree that this is a very, very small investment to keep our foot in that door, keep our spoon stirring the pot and moving forward. So I would actually agree with Mr. Or Commissioner Wheeler's suggestion that we do request at least Mr. Baird or someone from his office attend this as necessary to our.
I'd also agree that it's very important to stay involved and to know the players and the CEOs and the others who are bidding for the same team we are, maybe. Okay. And so I would think it would be important.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Need more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Passes 4-1. Thank you, with Mr. Fletcher descending. Okay, that completes the consent. Constitutional officers and government agencies, none. Public items, public hearings. Continued hearing from February 5, 2008, requested by Billy L. Hitchcock for a variance from the requirements of the subdivision ordinance, Chapter 913, for a mobile home development on 48th Avenue and 43rd Street. Memorandum dating February 5, 2008, pages 102 to 125, quasi-judicial. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Your turn.
Stan Bowling, Planning Director. This is a continuation of a hearing that was continued from December. The hearing that was held last week was continued to give Mr. Hitchcock's time. He coordinated with Bill DeBraw, our Assistant County Attorney, to have members of planning, code enforcement, and building staff here. I believe a number of individuals, and they are here this morning. And I'm not sure if Mr. DeBraw wants to say anything, but I guess that this is the point in time to have Mr. Hitchcock come and make his presentation. And again, there are numerous staff here as requested by Mr. Hitchcock. And just as a reminder, this is part of a subdivision variance request. That's before you all this morning.
Thank you, Commissioners. Does anyone have questions of staff before I open the public hearing?
No, ma'am.
No.
Okay. Can we be sworn, please? This is
Wow. I do.
Okay.
Thank you.
10:15.
Pardon?
10:15.
Yes, to remind everyone, we will be breaking at 10:15 for our event in Building B. All right. Staff, do you have a presentation, or that was it? Okay. Would you please, I open the public hearing. Those who would like to speak to this issue, please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Billy Hitchcock's, 4282 48th Avenue, Vero Beach, Florida, 32967.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Stan's not going to. Now, Stan sent out a package to each commissioner, I understand, as he sent me one, and it was sent to Joseph Baird and Community Development. In that package, there are some things that I do not agree with and that are not in the county records as I receive them from the county attorney. And at this time, I would like to get Ken to come forward, and I'd like to ask him a couple of questions.
Yes, sir. My name is Bill DeBrawl. I'm the Deputy County Attorney. Go ahead.
I was trying to get an answer from Ken, the gentleman who is stated in this package from Stan that did the sign-off on my request for the 2 homes. And I have some questions for him specifically.
Sure, Steglia.
Ken Orstaglio, environmental planner.
On this sheet that Stan attached, it's called attachment 4, I believe. Best, is there any way to I'm looking for this number right here?
Yes.
What is that number?
That's my extension. To my
That's your
office.
what?
My extension, phone extension to my office.
Extension to your office. Now, another question I have is why is the date, if you notice the date on this, 5/30/2006. Why is that date on there? Because that date is after I had submitted my application. That's after I had gotten the approval from the planner of the day. That is after the permits from the county health department had been issued.
That would have been the day I signed off on it when you came in the office.
I didn't come, no, I did not come to get your sign off on this. This was signed off by a totally different individual, because when you go to get a permit, I believe everyone here should be aware of the way you get a permit for mobile homes. And part of getting a permit for a mobile home is this form right here. And it has on there my name, the address, the lot, and it has the checkoffs to be done so as I can get everything. And if you notice, who signed that?
So I can't read it from here.
PM. It's not KO. And the date on it is 2/20/06. Because I got 2 different sign-offs for 2 different permits. The only one that you signed off on was after the 2 building permits were issued. Because also, if you look
Madam Chair.
I'm finally up.
Yes, Commissioner Wheeler.
I got a couple of, just a general question. I'd like to know what our objective here is.
Well, I'm trying to clarify.
Let me finish my question.
Sure.
Because first, I'd like to know what the objective is, because as I understand it, and from legal counsel told us at the last public hearing when we continued this, first, there's a zoning in place. Staff does not have the ability to change the use of that property, even if there was an error made, and I don't know that there was. But if we're trying to determine if an error was made, I would think that staff could determine that. And the request here is to, a special exception or whatever, to add 2 extra units where there's 2 units allowed. And we're kind of putting all this together. And I think the first question is are they there legally? Secondly, do we want to give a special exception? And thirdly, if it's to look to see if there was an error made, I think this could be done through staff and not through this commission.
Well, I have tried to go through staff twice, and both times they told me that this was the sign-off, and I said, no, it's not. So I went and I asked for Bill DeBrawl to go and pull the actual permits from Mr. Adkins, and that's what you have in front of you. I gave you copies so as you can see. This, that is the full...
Mr. Hitchcock, my understanding is from our legal counsel,
right,
is that, in fact, would you repeat what you said last week? Well, about it, let's assume for the sake of an argument that there was an error or miscommunication. I don't know that there was. I'm just trying to settle a point. And if there was, that still doesn't permit this. Am I correct, Will? Or
Well, the variance provisions that Mr. Hitchcock's applying for require findings that there are particular conditions that are involved in this property that cause undue hardship to him, but a variance wouldn't cause a hardship to adjacent properties, that a variance would be based on factors unique to this property, not generally applicable to other properties, and that the variance would be consistent with the intent and purpose of the county land development regulations and plan. And I think the staff's position is that none of those criteria are satisfied.
Well, that's what I want to get to.
I think that's the question of the public hearing, is whether or not we want to give a special variance.
And that's what I'm trying to get to right now.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
You done with me?
Yes. When this property was being inspected, George Beller, is he in here?
Yes, sir.
If he would please come forward.
Good morning. Good morning, George. George Beller, building inspector.
And now you came out and you did final inspection on both these homes that were put up. And we had major concentration on the electrical, if you remember, several times, because you and also Scott Edinger, because of there are 4 mobile homes on the property, and I had to build a special, or had to have an electrician come in. All of the electrical, as you notice, goes underground to each house. The electrical comes overhead down the property line and across to the top of a weatherhead up top. But we had to put in 4 of these panels, and this was an additional charge of like $16,000 that I had to put out before I could get a final on either one of the 2 houses. And that was one of the requirements that he put on because I have right here the inspection results where it states that's had to be done. All right, thank you.
Could you read that, please?
What? It just says, home is energized by Romex. Have an electrician remove the conductors from the meter and then put in missing hose bibs, and the heat strip is not marked, and finish electrical. And on the electrical permit, there was a long list of problems with it that it needed to have the can put on the top, the channel, it had to have 2 risers, and they even specified exactly what size wire could be used, and it had to be a 500 for the 2 mains and a 400 M for the regular. So that was something that was an additional charge also due to this being what was proposed. Because this was what I gave to the health department. This is what I gave to everyone. The health department signed off on the homes. They said they met the requirements of the property. And Mark Zanz signed off on the other one of the sign-offs. But since that's not neither here nor there.
What's the size of this? Is it?
What's that?
What's the size of the lot?
The size of the lot, it's 0.89 acres. It's a 200 by 200.
How many septic tanks do you have on the lot?
How many do I have on it? I have 4.
How do you get away with that?
Because you only required, according to the septic tank permit, let me get back here to it. I have all of the...
Do you have county water?
What's that?
Is there county water?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
And that's why, because it only takes 0.18 acres to get a septic tank, the 4 septic tanks.
That answers my question.
And because of the size of the lot, I am allowed what's there. Otherwise, they wouldn't have signed off on it, I guarantee you, because they came out and they measured and they checked and they double checked. So that is, and because here's the, this is the permit I had to pull prior to doing anything for a water connection so I could get water, because there was not county water supplied to the property at the time I bought the property. Now, when I bought the property, we bought it. I went through the process, and I had, like I said, I talked to Mark 4 or 5 times. I talked to this PM, whoever he is, 4 or 5 times prior to ever buying the property, and made sure, and I showed them that exact presentation, this right here. And this one is even signed off, as you can tell. It says right on it, RMH, he made a mistake when he did it because the property's owned RMH 8, but he's got RMH 6, and then he's got front, rear, and side. He even went as far as putting how much room had to be between each trailer. And it says, note, must have 20 feet between living areas, 10 feet from living to non-living, 10 feet from non-living to non-living. And then he signed off on the carports, because that's what this sign-off was for the carports to go in. So they always signed off on all of my prints, just as if there was nothing that would permit or prohibit me from putting in the trailers, because that was the one major.
We'll have staff rebuttal.
Well, I'd just like to see that sheet that he just put up there, because I missed what implied that there was allowed 4 there, but versus what he said.
You want to see this
6 and 8.
Just when you started doing the setbacks, I mean, that clearly could imply. I see this as implying that there's 2, not 4. I mean, those setbacks would be the same for 2 units versus 4.
If you notice, each one, this one says home existing, proposed, home existing, and proposed.
I see that. I'm talking about the setbacks that you were just reading to me.
I understand, but I'm just saying there was nothing mentioned about, well, you got to take 2 out to put 2 in. Everybody said I was legal to do what I did, as far as even going over to the state health department and getting them to give me the permits I needed. Now, what I have also, because when I started this process, because there was only 2 addresses on this property originally. One was 4276, one was 4286. And I went to Mark, and he said I had to go see Sherry Schaefer, and gave me, and she's right around the corner in the old building where they were. She was right around the corner from the secretary's desk. And I showed her his sign off on the print, and showed her a copy of my survey, and she issued these 6 addresses. She said, according to the size of the property and according to the ordinances and everything, she said, this is the max you can put on that property because it's less than an acre of ground. So she issued me these 6 addresses. And I took those addresses, and that's where I got what I needed. Now, my problem now is, if I have to remove these 2 trailers, I have major monetary problems. I have problems with the financing of the bank. And I included in there that
If we could pause right now, please. It's 10:15, and we do need to take a break to our second event, and we will come back. We are temporarily in recess. Thank you. Now back in session, we had a delightful event. The first baby boomer, Kathleen Casey Kirschling, is a winter resident of Vero Beach, Indian River County, and she got her first check, Social Security check, just a moment ago online. And we congratulate her and glad to be a part of it. To continue on with our public hearing, thank you.
As to a question that was raised earlier, I have tried for nearly a year to go through the channels with planning and zoning to resolve this issue, and for some reason they always come back to the same stance that they will not do anything about it. In fact, I even had a meeting with Stan Bowling, and I thought we were pretty close to getting it resolved, and he told me at the time that he saw no reason why I shouldn't be able to go ahead and get my permit to build my utility shed and tear down one of the existing homes so as I can replace it because it's in such bad shape. But something happened and it just didn't happen. But this has been going on from you got a picture there. As you can see here, Monday, 5/21/2007, when we went through a hearing, but that was after I had already gotten several letters from because the first one was dated here on 10/26/2006. So this has been going on for a long, long time. And my question has always been, if you look at this, it says Code Chapter Section, Chapter 911.042C, as being what I'm in violation of. And I cannot find anywhere in that code where it shows a violation if under what I have. And that's what my problem is trying to figure this out, is why I'm in violation of, because when I look at code 911, and it shows clearly right there mobile home districts as being part of the and then application district regulations 91104 and allowed uses. It is the intent of this ordinance to prevent certain uses not otherwise illegal to locate in specified zoning districts as permitted uses requiring administrative permits or special. And under this, and they list C, permitted uses, no structure shall be erected, constructed, reconstructed, or structurally altered, nor shall any structure or land or combination thereof be used unless the use to which the structure and or land is to be put is listed in the permitted use section of the applicable zoning district, and the use fully complies with all the applicable district regulations except for non-conformities. And when I look over at mobile home districts, it states very clearly at the top, purpose and intent. The mobile home districts are established to implement the policies of the Indian River County Comprehensive Plan for managing land designated for residential use, providing opportunities for developing mobile home subdivisions, and ensuring adequate public facilities to meet the needs of residents. These districts are also intended to implement the county's housing policies to provide opportunity for varied and diverse housing supply. And districts established, it says RMH 6, RMH 8.
Thank you,
RMH 8.
Mr. Hitchcock. Do you intend to call anybody else in our staff because we're tying up their time, or you finished with the staff, calling people in the staff? I think that's why we extended this, because you wanted that opportunity. If we're finished with that.
Well, I don't think that staff at this time can be, because like I said, I have gone through with them for many times. I just wanted for you, the commission, to understand that everything I did was according to the rules of the county of Indian River County. I didn't go up and try to do something outside. So, yeah, they can go.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, well,
yes.
Mr. Hitchcock, I have a copy here of an email that was sent to Roland DeBloy on November 1st of 2006, signed by you. Are you familiar with that email?
Yes.
And in this email, you acknowledged the fact that you were going to split the property into an east half and a west half so that there would be one unit on each lot. You mentioned here you could not finalize it until after the certificate of occupancy to the bank involvement.
Right.
And that you would then remove the two older homes as required. Those are your words. Is that correct?
As required, but I have come to other problems that won't allow me to do this, and this is what I'm trying to get at.
Okay, Mr. Hitchcock, the issue here before us is whether to grant a variance. And
right.
Clearly, you knew the code. you knew only 2 new homes were allowed on this property. You
Well-
acknowledged that you were going to remove the 2 older homes as
Oh,
required. I don't see much grounds here to grant a variance.
Well, I did not know, and I still don't understand that because I've gone to 2 attorneys, and both of them have gone through this paperwork, and they've clipped things all over them, and told me that there are things that have been done that are in some way shouldn't have been done, but in another way they are legal if they can be shown that there's a problem. And that's what I'm trying to show here today, is that I have a major problem with trying to split this property. And if you look in and what I was trying to get at with this is, the intent of mobile home districts is so that mobile homes can be put in where people can't afford regular housing. And the reason we bought that piece of property originally was because we were told that we could put 6 homes on it. So we went ahead, bought the property, and I installed the additional 1 house and removed 1 and put 1 in its place. And we were almost to the point of completion of the project when Betty Davis came out and said that the neighbor across the street had complained and there was a problem. And I'm like, well, I don't know what the problem is, because up until this point nobody has said anything, and it's been over a year from the time that I started the process until I get notified. And so I bought the property because it was the only thing I could afford. You have to understand, I'm a man who is totally disabled. I'm living off Social Security disability. I bought this property. I put a house on it. My son put a house on it, so they'd be right next door, because I go to the hospital many times. I've been in Indian River County in the last month. I've been in West Palm Beach, VA in the last month for health problems. I have a lot of different things. But the major problem, this was all done in good faith with a bank. And the bank required, they made sure, and they called and they checked and they did everything they could and said, all right, everybody agrees, it's all up and up, and so therefore we will go through with the financing on the property, and we will, and you have a copy of their requirements that shows that I am required to have insurance on all 4 houses, because they're all 4 covered under my mortgage. They're all there, and that's why when I said, now I'm not trying to get out of making improvements to my property. I want that to be totally understood, because that's something that was put in that letter from Stan, but that's not true. And Stan, if you would turn this machine back on. That's where there's all the electrical meters. They're sitting in the middle of the property where the FPNL wanted them. They're where they're to code. It cost me, like I said, $13,000 to do that. Now, the property has road around inside the property, and it goes to each house that is exactly the same road as is elsewhere that leads into the property. And the property also, when you look at it, the property, and I think anybody that's been out there would know, this bamboo hedge, it's about 10 feet tall, goes all the way around the property. It's a buffer all the way around the property. It's very evident, and we keep it cut to so as it doesn't interfere with anything, and it keeps the noise down, because we like to have our privacy also. And this is a picture of the front road. You can only see the house through the opening of the driveway. The rest of the house you can't see because there is a bamboo row and there's some oak trees and things there that keep everything totally enclosed.
Thank you, Mr. Hitchcock. Are there any particular new points you would like us to understand at this point?
Well, I want to go to if I look at, whoops, I got turned off. What happened? All right, go right here. This is part of my mortgage, and it's got right on it zoning compliance, legal, RMH 8, residential, and then if you look down at the bottom, it's got a code number, and that happens to be for one of the trailer mobile homes that was on there. And there is also part of our mortgage is right here, and it tells you there is a site, the opinion of site value is $40,000. The new house was $59,000. The old house was worth $12,480. And that's how they came to their value. And if you look over here, it says site improvements include the older manufactured home, landscaping, drives, county improved, county water, septic, site prep, and fill. Being the site is improved, the drives, landscaping, county water, and site prep is already there with an estimated contributory value of $10,000. So it's very clear from these documents that the bank is very much involved in the problem of this house, and what is it?
Okay, thank you very much. At this point, Commissioners, thank you, Mr. Hitchcock, for a moment. Just for a moment, please.
All right.
At this point, are there any questions you have of staff, of Mr. Hitchcock? Commissioners?
All right.
Yes.
Just looking at the document you just showed, going through that briefly, it looked like one unit was on .43 acres. And also, well, let me finish. Also, it looked as though the bank was financing two units, one new unit and one old unit, not 4 or 5 units.
They were, if you let me show you the whole thing, because
In fact, I don't even know if I should have asked that, because we keep getting far afield of what the objective is here. And
Here
the objective is a variance.
Here is the reason for it being only one. It says Declaration of Unity of Title. The title, and if you look on it, it was done on the 24th day of February 2006. The property, before the bank would sign off on the mortgage, the property had to be unified, because that was the only way that Mark Zans said that we could put the one house where we put it, because it was across a property line if we put it there without it being there. So we had to go get and the houses are now considered real property. They're no longer considered a mobile. That was the other thing that the bank required, was that everything be changed to fit, and we had to give up the title on the house, and we had to go down and file these new, and therefore I have a problem with not just the money that I've expended, which is a great deal of money, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $50,000, just to get the property to where the bank wanted it, plus putting in the 4 electrical meters and doing all of the work that was necessary to even get a CO, because until those 4 meters were in there and FPNL would accept them, I could not even get a CO on any house.
Okay, thank you. At this point, I would like our attorney to tell us what our options are. And we need to move forward on this, one way or the other. Our staff.
I'd be glad to try to summarize a little bit here, and just to provide a little bit of context. I think you can probably tell from Mr. Hitchcock's presentation that what occurred in 2006 at different times with various staff people, health department staff, several planning staff, planner of the day, planning technicians, and so forth. Different points in time, Mr. Hitchcock's came in and communicated with different staff, weren't looking at the same things, and it was actually a point in time when planner of the day sign-offs were on separate sheets that an applicant got, and it got taken to the building department. We've since, especially after this situation, computerized that. We have a different system now for sign-off, so it's a lot more narrowly focused. This was also a time when we were doing a lot of mobile home replacements from storm recovery, and we had many and many of those. And I think what we have here is essentially sign-offs for these trailers occurring, one in January, one in February, then we have a deed recorded for the property, and then we have a building permit applied for in May, and another sign-off from the planner of the day office on May 30th. The next day, 2 permits issued by the building department, one clearly for replacement, the other for a mobile home setup. Mr. Hitchcock's proceeded with improvements out on the site. I received a phone call in 2006, around September, I believe it was, from a neighbor saying, did you all approve a mobile home park? There's multiple mobile homes and set up. I contacted the code enforcement, and they looked into it and began the investigation into it. Essentially where we stand now is this. I interviewed staff. I met with Mr. Hitchcock's twice in October. I came up with a memo that's in your backup. kind of laying out what had happened and what had proceeded. And Commissioner O'Brien read the email from November 1st of 2006 from Mr. Hitchcock's explaining basically what the requirements were, that the 2 new mobile homes could stay, the 2 older ones leave, and reconfigure and do the lot split correctly, and everything would be resolved. And staff relied on that since November of 2006. COs were then allowed to be issued on the new mobile homes. Mr. Hitchcock was allowed to proceed, never remove the 2 mobile homes, and that's the subject of the code enforcement application. Where we stand today is this: there are 4 mobile homes on the site, 2 new ones, which we issued a CO for each of those, based on an email commitment and commitments I've heard in meetings I've had with Mr. Hitchcock to remove the 2 older mobile homes. No impact fees have been paid for the 2 new mobile homes that are out there. There were replacements. The first one, there was no impact fee paid for because it was permitted as a replacement on the building permit. Mr. Hitchcock initially paid impact fees for one of the mobile homes. Those impact fees were refunded once we realized, what the situation was. That was in 2006. So as it stands now, no impact fees have been paid for the 2 new mobile homes. And then Mr. Hitchcock really has 3 alternatives right now. One is to go back to what the agreement was in November 2006 and to remove the 2 older trailers. No impact fees need to be paid. It's a replacement, just like staff understood. Another option is for him to go through the site plan and subdivision process, do formal improvements, get the review for 4 or 5 mobile home lots, put in the formal drainage, landscaping, utilities, paved road requirements, all of that. The other option is to get a variance from you all and not make him go through the subdivision and site plan process. It's really that simple. And staff's recommendation and finding is that there's variance is not warranted, and he has the option to go through the formal development process or to remove the 2 older mobile homes, correct the lot split, and proceed like we understood back in November of 2006.
Is there a minimum size for a subdivision?
Well, in this particular subdivision, there's not a minimum size for a mobile home park per se. For the district there is, but it's an existing zoning district that's out there, so there's not a problem with that. But there is actually, for a lot split in that subdivision, approximately half acre, splitting those 1 acre tracts into 2 parcels is as far as they can go with a lot split.
That's the other question.
Mr. Hitchcock, just a minute, please. Is there any other question at this point of staff? Okay, Mr. Hitchcock, if you would please wrap up.
Well, I just want to show you this one last, if you turn on this, and right here, it is mortgage clause must read coverages south half new, the new house, 77,100 south half old, 7,000 north new, 80,200 north old, 7,000. These are requirements I have to meet with the bank, or else they will come foreclose upon the property. So I am in and this is one of the requirements that I have to meet to be able to get a variance, is that it's going to cause me such a horrendous amount of harm monetarily that there is no way I can do this, because if I do, then I have lost my house because the bank's going to foreclose, because I've removed something that they clearly put into their requirements. It's part of my mortgage. It's like if you bought a house and went out and tore it down, you're still going to have to pay for it.
Okay, thank you very much.
What are the impact fees on each of the new mobile homes?
I paid $4,720, and I have not to this date received any refund, which Mr. Bowling is wrong. I have the receipt. It's $4,720. That's what I paid. And it is still paid. I've not gotten it back because I don't expect to get it back. It's right here. $4,720.69. Impact fees. Fee information. And it goes down and shows you payments. And it says total paid $4,720.69. Paid on 5/16/2006, which is the date that I submitted my application for the permit. And I have paid, and that's what I said. And if you want to go into other fees, I have paid in total on these 4 homes, I have paid in total in fees alone $27,922. Because I had to pay $2,996 per house for water connection. And I had to pay this $4,720, and then I had to pay other fees on top of that to get the permits pulled. So I have a total investment just in fees of over $40,000. And then you add what I've had to pay to get my electrical hooked up, and you put in the other $3,000, $4,000 I had to pay to put in a driveway. And that's why I said I don't mind doing some improvements if that's what's necessary, but I believe I've done everything that is in the code except for possibly paving that street. But the street is the same as the street that you drive in on. It's exactly the same rock. So my problem is I am stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions of Mr. Hitchcock from commissioners? Okay, thank you. Any questions of staff?
Just one, do we have a canceled check where we refunded his impact fee?
I'll be glad to get with Mr. Hitchcock's and hunt that down. The original impact fees, $4,720.69. According to our computer records, was paid in May of 2006, and they were all later reversed. And I'd be glad to get with Mr. Hitchcock.
But I have not received them.
Okay.
They have never been returned back to me.
All right, thank you very much. And now we have to make a decision or postpone again.
I believe somebody would like to speak in the back. They have their hand up.
I see
This
that,
is a
but
public hearing.
I understand that.
Okay.
Got it. But I'm still would like to have our attorney weigh in on this before we open the public hearing further to the county.
Well, as Mr. Bowling has said, there's several options. Either remove the 2 illegal mobile homes that are on the property, apply for plat approval so that you can develop it more intensely, or seek the variance that Mr. Hitchcock has requested. But this variance requires the board find all of 4 different conditions apply, one being that there's physical conditions, shape, or topography of the specific property that cause an undue hardship, 2, that it won't cause injury to adjacent property, 3, that the conditions are unique and not generally applicable to other property in the adjacent area, and that the variance is consistent with the land development regulations. And our staff has found that none of these conditions apply, and that there's no basis to grant the variance since these conditions can't be complied with.
Okay, thank you very much. At this point, if there's anyone from the audience who would like to speak, I will entertain that. I see a hand over here. Yes, please, if you'll come to the podium and give your name and address for the record.
Rhonda Anderson, 4275 48th Avenue. I live directly across the street. I don't think this should be allowed if everyone else doesn't have the opportunity to get the same thing. I have 2 little boys on that street. You have a children's home with handicapped children. And I just feel like this whole thing has gotten out of hand. I've been there 20-some years. I have not been allowed to do anything. I can't have a camper, a motorhome, and then Mr. Hitchcock's, he moves in. I see these homes going in, all this being done. It doesn't seem right.
Okay, thank you very much.
And it will also decrease my property value.
Okay. Anyone else like to speak to this issue? Yes. Name and address for the record, please.
Wes Coleman, 4885 42nd Street, lifelong resident, 4th generation, so on and so on. But anyway, I've been out there 30 years myself. I really don't care which way it goes with him. I just think it should go for everybody out there. I mean, if it's good for him, it ought to be good for me. So that way to keep all the property values equal, and I think for or against it, but country logic tells me if it's good for him, it's got to be good for me.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak to this issue? All right, I am going to wrap up the public hearing at this point. Do you have one last thing?
Yes, ma'am.
A minute?
I have spoken to the lady I bought the property from. She has on her property 8 houses. She has it's a 2-acre lot that's right next to mine. She had 3 acres. She split off one. She has 2 acres, and she has 8 houses on that property. And she was here the first meeting, and she said she had no reason whatsoever to not agree with the variance. And this variance is something that is detrimental to my financial well-being. And now, when you look at what staff wrote in there, is totally different from what I wrote on mine, because I put in mine that there would be no harm to anyone else because my property is totally enclosed. It's not something that is a problem for anyone else. The problem is unique. I understand that there may have been some mistakes made by county planning and zoning and everyone, which made some mistakes that has created this problem, but it's not something I did maliciously or anything else. Yes, it may be a mistake. I don't know. But this clearly meets the requirements of the board, and I can read those requirements, but I know y'all know them too. Because everything that is there is unique to this situation.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, we are now at the
Madam
next
Chair,
level. And yes.
if I may, based upon testimony from staff that they originally thought that the highlighted homes were being replaced, there is a permit for a mobile home replacement, in Mr. Hitchcock's email where he acknowledges that he needs to replace the 2 homes, it seems clear to me that the issue is not whether he knew he had to replace those 2. It's now the issue that his mortgage wrapped those 2 older units in the total loan and as part of his overall mortgage on the property. I would suggest that, and we'll clarify whether Mr. Hitchcock's got his $4,800 refund or not, but if he left the other new home on there, he'd have to come up with another $5,000 to pay the impact fees for the second new home. And I would suggest that if he took that money and paid down his mortgage, the bank would probably be more than willing to take those requirements off his deed because they're only holding that for the value of the collateral. So,
That's incorrect. I have already spoken to him.
well, I would talk to him again, but based on everything I've seen, I don't see any support to grant a variance. If he does want to keep all the units on the property, he can go through the formal plat process as staff has outlined. And I think the other residents are correct. If we open this door up, then we would have to grant variances to everybody out there, and it would kind of be the Wild West of everybody throwing things out there. So I do not see any reason at this point to grant a variance.
Is that a motion?
I move to,
Well,
I guess, what are we actually doing here?
Let me close the public hearing at this point.
Okay, I'm sorry, I thought you did. All right.
Well, I might
Okay.
do it again. And I would like for you please to repeat your motion, and I'll ask for a second.
I move staff recommendation, which is to deny the requested subdivision variance.
May I have a second?
I'll
for
second
discussion? Okay, any further discussion of Commissioners? Mr. Davis?
Madam Chair, I understand what Mr. Hitchcock did, and you're right as far as it's allowed and all that kind of stuff, but it's only allowed when you meet the certain requirements of paving the roads and putting the infrastructure in. So if you do want to keep these 4 units there, you do have an opportunity to. But that opportunity was only met for you to go through the formal subdivision process and to create a mobile home park is really what it would boil down to. As far as doing the one-time lot splits and then putting the units, 2 units on either side of that, and your unit of title and all that, I understand exactly what staff was trying to do as far as steer you in the right direction. And with your ordinance that you're reading, I don't dispute what you're saying because it is correct, but it is not correct the way you have it done. You need to make improvements to the site, provide paved road access and all that kind of stuff, because as Commissioner O'Brien said, the significance of this in this entire community is we would be granting waiver after waiver after waiver, and then at what point do we no longer even have the need for the RMH8 zoning in this area? So I would not be in favor of granting the waiver.
Mr. Wheeler?
Ditto.
Mr. Fleischer?
I see no reason to grant the waiver as well. I don't believe that we've had any supporting testimony, and I agree with Commissioner Davis as well.
And I go with staff recommendation, which is the same, and deny. We have a motion on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Number 2, Adult Community Total Services, Inc.'s request for major site plan and special exception approval to construct a total care facility to be known as Indian River Estates Phase 3, memorandum dated January 12, 2008, pages 126 to 145, and this also is quasi-judicial.
Before you move on, could I please, I need a copy of the proceedings here.
Well, you can go to our that can be taken care of.
Because my attorney is going to take this further.
That'll be fine. Absolutely. Thank you.
Because he said there's definitely
okay.
reason to go for it.
Thank you very much. All right, we're on to staff, please.
Yeah. This is a special exception use request for additional development and additional property being added to the Indian River Estates community. The site's located on the north side of State Road 60, otherwise known as 20th Street, west of 74th Avenue. And the overall existing area is where I'm showing here with the cursor. It goes all the way up to 26th Street. And then there's a 10-acre addition, which is really the subject of this particular request. Notification's been out to sent out to surrounding property owners for the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing and for this hearing, and staff's received no comments back from that. The proposal before you is to expand the total care use. The total care use involves skilled nursing beds and different types of residential units, and that's what's proposed with this particular project. It will connect with the existing roadway system for the existing Indian River Estates development, propose a new connection to 26th Street, and this connection will also serve as the construction entrance for the new development. But then basically a loop road through development, duplex units around the outside, and then skilled nursing facility wings kind of here in the middle of this 10-acre addition. The nursing addition that's shown here in this kind of darker blue is for 120 beds. There's a future wing that's accommodated but not actually applied for with this application, but they'll be able to put this wing in and all the infrastructure will already be in place to serve it if they choose to do so in the future. These are duplex units, 22 units total, and again there's interconnections with the existing Indian River Estates facility. Off-site improvements, the developer is working with Public Works Department on negotiating for paving 26th Street in this project, essentially to serve this as a permanent connection here, this access point to 26th Street. 26th Street will need to be paved from just west of the proposed entrance all the way to the edge of pavement, which is toward the existing Catholic Church to the east. The rest of 26th Street may also be part of negotiation because the county would like to have 26th Street paved all the way out to 82nd Avenue. And again, those are negotiations going on with the Public Works Department right now. The landscape plan includes several buffers between the duplex residential units and then also the skilled nursing care facility along 26th Street, the western boundary and the southern boundary of the project. There's also a stormwater pond and littoral zones that are proposed. This is an artist's conception of this project at build-out, including what could be a future skilled nursing wing. Here's the skilled nursing facility and the duplexes around the edge. Essentially, you can tell that the less intense use essentially is around the edge, and the more intense use is toward the middle of the addition itself. The Planning and Zoning Commission looked at this proposal and voted 7-0 to recommend that you all approve it, and we have two conditions that are recommended as being approval conditions. One is to pave 26th Street for that second entrance, and also the second one is to install landscape buffers. Now, in addition to what's in your report, and I've already handed a copy to the clerk here, we're recommending that, and worked with the applicant and Public Works on adding this clause here, or close, and let me just describe that. Paving 26th Street could take some time because there's right-of-way that's needed to be acquired for that. So prior to issuing a CO for this particular project, the applicant would like the ability to not tie their CO to having that done. They have access to the existing project, and what this clause does is it will have them just close off their entrance until 26th Street is paved. In other words, they can use it for construction, but before they get CO of this project, if 26th Street isn't paved, they'll close off that new entrance until 26th Street is paved. And with that change to the one recommended condition, again, staff and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval.
Madam Chair.
Yes, let's have, please, sworn. We didn't do that to start with. Everybody wishing to speak to this, please be sworn.
I do.
Thank you. Any questions of staff at this point?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes. Stan, the last clause there about closing off the entrance, is there any way to put a time limit on that, just so it's not open-ended? Because if we give them the CO, then there's kind of no real urgency to get 26th Street paved and completed. So if we're going to, I can understand because the right-of-way issue, and we might need to give them a little bit of flexibility, but I don't like the idea of it being totally open-end with no no fixed date when it has to be done one way or the other.
Right. I think there's a couple ways. Obviously, staff is comfortable with what we've recommended. It's possible that, I mean, there'll be quite a bit of time between now and a CO for this project, and there could be a developers agreement, for instance, that the applicant enters into with the county before CO, or some other type of agreement if you all chose to do that. But the applicant could speak to that.
Yeah, I'd like to see either a timeline or a developers agreement or a bonding or something where they're committed to doing it, not just leave it open-ended and still issue the COs and not have a plan for getting it done.
Madam Chair.
We're going down the road.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Fletcher?
Nothing at this time, Madam Chair. Thank you.
It was along those same lines. I mean, I really see that if we don't take the opportunity to get some interconnectivity or some, you'll have everybody coming out State Road 60 versus using 26th Street. So, and I think it'd be nice to have the flow going either way. So I don't know how to, I don't have a problem with the language staff has put forth as long as that road will be paved and that entrance will be utilized and not permanently closed. So if I could have some help with that.
Mr. Wheeler?
Yeah, the western portion of 26 after their pavement here, is there anything in future plans about, I know we need to get it paved, but what are we looking at? What are our options on that?
Right. I think, again, Public Works has been negotiating with the applicant, and maybe the applicant could speak to that about kind of piggybacking these two rather than just looking at their access point, doing the whole part in the county, and actually having a developers agreement to go along with that. I mean, I'm not sure exactly where that is in negotiations right now.
And the other question would be, why wouldn't they pave it all the way to the end of their property? They're creating, with the development, they're creating the situation where it gives us an opportunity to pave it, but why wouldn't they pave the frontage of their property?
Right. What would normally apply in our current requirements is an escrow for their share of future paving of the project, which is by no means the overall amount. It tends to be 25%. And I think it's generally better if you can get that connection all the way to their access point rather than just having it escrowed. I mean, like you said, we want to see the paving accomplished, not just escrowing money for it.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll open the public hearing at this point if there are no more questions. And anyone liking to speak to this, please come to the podium. I have two podiums, so make use of both, please. Name and address for the record, please.
Bob Johnson, Carl Wynn Subdivision.
Of Montana.
I'd like to follow up on what Commissioner O'Brien said. I think it's imperative that 26th Street be paved all the way to 82nd. 82nd, for the most part, has already been paved, portion of it, to 26th. There's no way that 26th Street now can be used as an east-west corridor without paving 26th Street. And I think that with all the intersections that are needing to be improved at 58th and so forth, that this needs to be taken into consideration to help traffic go along 26th Street to parallel Route 60. That you're now working on a project to widen from Route 1 to 43rd Avenue on 26th Street. There are plans to go from 43rd to 66. So I think this is just the link that needs to be finished. It doesn't necessarily have to be 4-lane like the others, but it would expedite the traffic considerably, paralleling Route 60. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes. Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning. My name is George Simons. I'm a project manager for Carter Associates, 1708 21st Street, Vero Beach. We have no objection with paving that road. In fact, we're working with Jim Davis and Public Works to pave all the way to 82nd. The portion I call the east segment would be from the existing end of pavement in front of the church there, about 500 feet west of 74th, all the way to where Stan showed it being 50 feet past the entrance. And we have no problem working within the pavement all the way to 82nd. With the formula we've come up with was 25% of the cost along our frontage for the remaining frontage that we have to the west of our entrance. And our only concern is if we invest in this project and put the building in, For some reason, the process with acquiring the right-of-way has not been timely. We don't want to be stuck with a building that's ready to move residents into and not be able to get a CO.
That's understandable.
If you would like to strengthen the condition that we bond for it, that's acceptable, and we're certainly willing to do that.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else want to speak to this issue? If not, I'll close the public hearing. What is your pleasure?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I move to approve with staff recommendation 1 through 4, and further staff recommendation 1A and B with the modifications that we just saw on 1A, and then let's go ahead. I would like a C, I suppose, to go ahead and maybe bond for that, just to go ahead and have the maximum amount of security.
I'll second that motion.
We have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Moving right along. Thank you very much. Consideration number 3, fiscal interlocal agreement for coordinated planning and school concurrency. Memorandum dated February 4, 2008, pages 146 to 206. This is legislative. Staff?
Good morning. I'm Bob Keating.
Yeah, 1 minute.
Yes.
Still morning.
Still morning. I'm Bob Keating. I'm County Community Development Director. This is the final interlocal agreement for coordinated planning and school concurrency. It is a little deja vu-like and anticlimactic. This was discussed pretty significantly almost 2 weeks ago at the joint meeting held at the Richardson Center. If you'd like, I can give you my 20-minute PowerPoint.
I was wondering if you'd have an abbreviated.
But I also can defer doing that. So I guess I won't. There is a copy of the agreement in your backup. Even though this isn't a required public hearing item, staff wanted to make sure that the public got the opportunity to weigh in, so we did advertise this as a public hearing. I know that we went over this extensively 2 weeks ago, so I'm not going to go over any more. And I'll tell you, staff's recommendation is that you open the public hearing, that you approve the agreement, and that you authorize the chairman to execute the agreement.
Thank you very much. And we will do that. We will open the public hearing. Anyone like to speak to this item? Seeing none, I close the public hearing. I'll accept a motion.
Madam Chair.
Wow. Okay, quickly.
Madam Chair, I move staff recommendation to have the chairman execute the interlocal agreement.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
I'd like to just real quick thank staff, though. They did. Bob, this is we're one of the first ones in the state in compliance for Senate Bill 360 on this. We got some grant money to do it, and it's a long time coming, but y'all did a great job.
And I think we were the pilot program. Did we get an A? Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 4, public hearing to amend Section 201. Oh, I better put my glasses on. Everything's starting to blur.
It is afternoon.
Yeah. Public hearing to amend Section 201.08.H of the Indian River County Code to remove the requirement of interest payment on water and sewer deposits. Memorandum dated January 30th, 2008, 207 to 210. This is legislative. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is the first of 2 related public hearings today. In the first public hearing, we ask that you consider an ordinance to amend the code to remove the requirement to pay interest on our water and sewer deposits. After the effective date of this ordinance, the deposits will be held in a non-interest-bearing account. This change will help protect our customers because they won't have to provide their Social Security numbers to us, and it will allow the county to comply with the new state law regarding the collection of Social Security numbers. Therefore, we ask that you open the public hearing, take public comment, close the public hearing, and adopt the ordinance in the form presented.
Thank you very much. Any questions of staff at this point? If none, I open the public hearing. Anyone like to speak to this item? Seeing none, I close the public hearing. May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move to adopt the ordinance to amend Code Section 201.08H in the present form.
Second. Chair, I'll second it.
Okay. We have a first and a second. And any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Passes 5-0. Public hearing number 5, to enact a resolution to amend Resolution 99-58, Utilities Rate Resolutions, memorandum dated February 4, 2008, pages 211 to 215, and this also is legislative.
Commissioners, this is the second public hearing. This public hearing will ask you to amend our utilities rate resolution by deleting the interest rate of 2.5% payable on the water and sewer deposits. This action will essentially complete the action you took at the immediately preceding public hearing. We ask that you open the public hearing, take public comment, close the public hearing, and adopt the rate resolution as presented.
Thank you. I will open the public hearing at this point. Anyone wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, I close the public hearing. May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move to adopt the resolution as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you. Public discussion items. 1, request to speak from Frank Zork regarding presidential pictures available for display in administrative building. Page 216. May we have your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Frank Zork, 1695 20th Avenue, Vero Beach. Good morning to Chairman Bowden and all commissioners. Over the years, I have collected various things, and some are on display in my home, some I have in storage. A few weeks ago, or maybe a month ago, I noticed my package of presidential portraits that I have had for about 15 years, and just so happened about that time I had been visiting the new administration building here several times, admiring how beautiful it was. And all of a sudden I got the thought that it might be nice to have these portraits displayed down here in the administration building for whatever period of time you might want to agree to. There'd be no cost for using the portraits. And I talked to some of the commissioners before. There was concern about the cost of the frames. And I made arrangements between myself and my sons to cover the cost of the frames and the framing. So actually we would have no outlay of any funds. Mr. Frame has looked at the lobby right outside here and determined that they could be arranged properly in that lobby, and he would do that. I think it would be a particularly nice thing this year because it's the election year. It's a patriotic type of thing, and I think many senior citizens we have here would appreciate the opportunity of viewing many presidents that they know from the past. Speaking to Sandra Bowden, she mentioned it might be nice to have them up by President's Day, which is next week, and I think that could be accomplished. So, and the time they can stay there is a matter of discussion. I'm willing to discuss any time. I leave them there at least a year. If you want them more or less, that can be decided by yourself anytime. Do you have any questions?
Anyone have any questions of Mr. Zork?
No, ma'am, not of Mr. Zork, maybe of staff.
The only question I have was just insurance and coverage of them in case of theft or fire. Just
a waiver. We
need to make sure that's clearly delineated. But I appreciate Mr. Zork offering this. I think it's a great idea. I think, maybe having them up until, after the presidential election in November would be a good thing. So my only concern is just getting the insurance straightened out and responsibility. And other than that, I think it's great.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I would prefer versus us going through the process of getting insurance on his pictures. I think it'd probably be more appropriate to get a hold harmless of some kind or a waiver. I don't anticipate anything happening, but I don't want to get caught up in an insurance issue on the pictures versus us just saying, yes, they're for the public benefit. I hope nothing happens to them. I don't foresee anything happening to them.
Have you seen the samples of them here?
Yes, they're beautiful.
They're
really
beautiful.
Are. They are. And again, I wouldn't want the county to be in the situation of insuring artwork for our walls.
Right. The other thing would be appropriate, I believe, at this point, is to have a policy on artwork, because once you open the door, we're going to have other artists, cultural council, others come forward. And so it might be appropriate to have staff bring back a policy. We're delighted to, when appropriate, display our community, for our community. But I think we probably need a written policy on this.
There will be 43 pictures.
How many?
All the presidents, because President Bush is number 43. And you got one of Lincoln here, I think, and one of Kennedy, just to show you the variation. But they were all done by the same artist. Interesting.
It is interesting.
So where do we stand, Commissioners?
Madam Chair, I think that you're right on point. I'll move that we do hang the artwork. I don't have a problem with that at all. And I think that we do need to create the policy, and inside the policy would simply state some kind of a hold harmless or some kind of a waiver.
Second.
And it would be up to staff to decide where the artwork is to be hung, wherever is appropriate, I think.
Absolutely. I don't want to be involved in interior decorating any more than we already have.
I don't think you were involved in interior decorating, were you?
We left that to you.
Thank
and you
you.
did a fine job.
Thank
But that's why I say no more than we already have.
Okay.
Mr. Frame has looked at the lobby out here and determined how he could arrange them on the three walls there in the lobby, which I think would be an ideal spot for him.
I'll second Commissioner Davis's motion.
I already did.
Oh, okay. Well, third year, second.
Thing.
Second year, second.
Third. That's a good, Frank. We got a third on this one.
I'm ready for the question, Madam Chair.
Pardon? Any more questions?
No, I mean, I'm sure.
Staff, could you bring back a policy, or do you have any more input to this that would be helpful?
If you'd give us a couple of weeks to bring back a policy, also look, where we want to put it. Maybe not in this building. We could also put it in the library. Okay. In a conference room or in a library, that would be, where, and he may want to contact the schools, because the schools may want him in some facility.
Okay, great. And you'll bring it back to us, and then
probably not next meeting, but
right.
The meeting after.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you, Frank.
Thank
All
you.
those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Zook.
Public notice items. Okay. Notice of scheduled public hearings on February 19, 2008. Public notice of public hearing for amendment to ordinance number 2003-03, codifying and publishing the ordinances of adopt the code up to including supplement 65, memorandum dated February 4, 2008, page 217, legislative. Moving on. Departmental matters, Public Works. Developers agreement between Indian River County, Florida and Pioneer Baptist Church of Vero Beach, Inc., memorandum dated February 1, 2008, pages 218 to 225. Good afternoon, Joe.
All right. Jim Davis, Public Works Director. This is a right-of-way acquisition parcel for a stormwater pond at South Old Dixie Highway near the South Relief Canal Bridge. We plan to replace the bridge and put turn lanes along Old Dixie to facilitate all the heavy truck movement there by the Oslo transfer station. And we've negotiated this right-of-way acquisition with the church. The price is $60,630 for the RS6 zone land, and we recommend that you approve this acquisition.
Madam Chair, I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Utility Services, Amendment Number 1 to continuing consulting service work, Order Number 4, Mesteller and Moeller, Inc., for engineering services for conservation of lateral G, force main to reuse main, UCP Number 2830, memorandum dated January 30th, 2008, pages 226, 234. Good afternoon. Might need your mic.
The green button.
The green button.
Where it says push.
There you go.
Mike Hotchkiss, Capital Projects Manager, Utility Services. I'm here to answer any questions. This particular amendment number 2 is for, they originally were going to just go in and pig an existing 8-inch force main and convert it to a reuse main. And we did some hydraulic modeling for converting, being able to transfer 1.5 million gallons per day of reuse from our West Regional Wastewater Treatment Plant up to north to be able to eventually convey it over to the North Barrier Island, and found out the 8-inch wasn't large enough. So now we're going to have to go in and replace that with a 16-inch and do some other modifications at both Sand Ridge and Hawksnest golf courses. and then also extended up to the North Regional Wastewater Treatment Plant, which is located at 77th Street, just west of US 1. So it was a lot more involved than what we originally thought. We thought we could just utilize the existing 8-inch force main, and so we started evaluating, doing the hydraulic modeling, and found out the 8-inch wasn't adequate to get what we needed to from west to north.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if there's no questions, I'm ready for the motion.
Well, I don't know that there's no questions. Let's
Okay.
ask.
Would you like for me to make a motion and then find out, or
No, I'd like to ask first. Thank you. Any questions?
how about now? You ready for the motion?
Certainly.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I move amendment number 1 to work order number 4. Second.
Oh, well, we have several seconds.
That's the easy part, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll take all of them. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you very much. County Attorney's matters, we have none. County Commission items, we have item under Commissioner Wesley S. Davis, Vice Chairman, discussion regarding elimination of reception position in the Board of County Commission office. Mr. Davis.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, I'll make this fast. I think we have an opportunity to experiment and see if we can do without the receptionist position. This isn't indicative of anybody that's there right now, seem very qualified and all that kind of stuff. I just think this is an opportunity for us to save about $35,000. And therefore, I'll go ahead and just make the motion that we try it for at least a month and see if we can survive without it by rotating the existing aides in the position. And that's my thoughts.
Do you have any backup material?
No, ma'am.
I see no second.
Was that a motion? I'll make a second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Aye. For the record, I want to go on record here, and I think this is most unusual. Most unusual. We have no backup material. We have voted to have this position in reorganization, and I think it's very unusual of your character, Mr. Davis, to do this. We usually don't vote on anything of this major consequence, Mr. Wheeler, or Mr. O'Brien, or Mr. Flesher, without backup material. And I think that you, of all people, have said that in the past. This was sprung on us. No one, or I didn't know this. And had no until it came out, which it comes out on Friday afternoon. I had this weekend, as I always do, to go over everything. Monday, I was in meetings from 8 o'clock in the morning all the way up and down the coast. So I find this most unusual to revisit something that this commission and other commissions has voted on, and out of the spur of the moment, turn it around, especially when somebody's in an office. Now, I absolutely want to look at this for sure, but the appropriate time to do this is budget time. We have never slashed and burned in this whole county. And for our employees, the rest of our employees, to think we are going to sit up here and slash and burn when we have gotten no concrete numbers from anyone. We have read something in the Press Journal, but we have gotten from our administrator, no concrete numbers yet, because we are still reevaluating, as I understand, in other counties and here. To do something like this in the spur of the moment, I find really a lack in leadership. I certainly want to look at this as, you talk about experimenting. I don't want to experiment. Especially with people's jobs and what we have already put in place. If we find we need to modify, adjust, or change, absolutely. But you give backup materials to all of us, run it through staff, and run it through the organization like we always do everything else. That's where I stand on this, and I am really don't think you would have done this in the school system. And I'm really not sure why you did this now.
Well, I would have thought...
Wait just a minute. I think he might want us to respond.
Well, normally this takes place under discussion, not after the motion. And I have no problem with it, but I think this all should have been done before the motion.
I asked for discussion.
No, you didn't. You didn't have any discussion until after the motion.
I asked for
Listen.
I asked for
This is
discussion,
a no-win
so-
situation.
It is a no-win situation, and
right,
it's
Madam
most unusual. And it doesn't represent what we stand for up here.
Okay, and Madam Chair, please, I mean no disrespect by this whatsoever, nor did I mean for this to be any surprise. I had it on the agenda, then I pulled it off the agenda, and then I put it back on the agenda whenever I found out that.
I don't know any of those particulars because I don't.
I'm letting you know now because.
Well, it would have been nice in the backup material to have any reasoning why you did this. And Mr. O'Brien, this is your first go-around with the, really of doing anything like this, and I'm surprised. If you have an explanation, I would like to hear it.
I do, Madam Chair. I think we have been given a mandate by 70% of the voters that they want to see our budget cut. Jason Brown has delivered numbers. Just the homestead exemption is going to hit us about $5.3 million. That's a hard number. We know that. We don't know the impact of what the tax assessment will be. But we do know Jason has calculated that the $25,000 additional exemption is going to hit us about $5.3 million. At the time Commissioner Davis put this on the agenda, we had an open position. So I think it was appropriate.
No, let's wait.
Madam, you asked for my explanation. I'm giving it to you.
Okay, but I want it to be truthful, and this was already completed when he put it on the agenda.
Well, I believe we have a Wednesday deadline to put things on the agenda, and so I believe he submitted it prior to the hiring of the position. I do think it was a good thing to discuss. Particularly since at that time the position was open, and we do have a mandate to start cutting our taxes. And I think the hiring was very rushed through, and
okay, all right, I accept your position on this. Now that we have done this, we need to have a plan as how we're going to implement this come tomorrow morning. Are you, is this, you want this position as of today, what time is it? 12:15 eliminated? Or when do you want this position eliminated, and what is our plan?
Sure, absolutely. Well, and really, I do believe, Madam Chair, that the aides that are in there right now can come up with something that can work.
You want them to come up with a plan?
I would rather that because clearly it's going to be up to them to make it work. And again, I want. There's nothing clandestine about this. Nothing up my sleeve.
Nobody said that at all.
I just didn't want. It was not an ambush. It was not intended to be that way. But I do think it's important for us to have the aides in the office come up with something that can work. And Commissioner, by all means, if this does not work, then I'll be the first to request it back.
And how are we going to evaluate if this works or not? Because I do understand that some commissioners have different hours for their aides.
That is correct.
And yours leaves at 3:30.
Right, they come in, yeah. But with the district that I represent in the agricultural interest, I did ask her to come in at 7:30 earlier in the morning. Right. And it also...
At 7, I believe.
Okay. Well,
I pulled it, yes, 7.
Okay. Well, and I appreciate that. But I just, I don't see any reason why we can't make this work with the ladies that are in the office. They all have more experience now than they did when we first started out. We had 2 new aides that it takes some time to cut their teeth, but they're brought up to speed really well, and they're capable of doing it, I'm convinced. And it's not a matter of whether or not we want it. I want the position, but it's whether or not we can afford to do without it. And I believe that we owe it to the taxpayers to try.
The other thing, until you're chairman, and Mr. Wheeler has been chairman, you surely do not get the whole grasp of this office, because the volume of paperwork that comes over, I'm surprised at. And I remember Mr. Wheeler said to me one time that he didn't ask his aide to do very much because she was working continuously with the paperwork and the volume that we do. I think that needs to be taken into consideration also when we make Plan B, that for different aides, it's different responsibilities. And I will open it up to the audience. I think I had a couple of people ask me. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Joseph Paladin, President of Atlantic Coast and Construction Development, also by Swan Consulting. I think that when you all voted on the system that we have in place now, I think we had backup. I thought we had some public input, and decision-making was a part of a procedure. I would ask that we have some public input before we reverse this decision. And I have reason to believe that this really might not be a savings to eliminate that position. If we do a lengthy study and look at what the cost proceedings would be to cover that open space that we would be eliminating. And seeing as how we already have a person in that position, which we all voted to do several months ago, I would ask Commissioner Davis to withdraw that motion until we have public input and have some discussion as to whether or not that would be a savings to the public. And I don't believe it would be. So I would ask that we reverse this and have some public input and come back with discussion and backup material and cost findings. And if truly it is a savings, then we can discuss it. But I truly indicate to you, I don't think it would be a savings. And it certainly would take away from the services to the people in this county after this building being built, and what the services the people in this county anticipate. In the last couple of weeks when we've been without a lady up front, I can personally tell you I've been in there several times and no one's been in the front office. So I think until we work that out, I think the people deserve the services that they expect. Thank you.
Thank you. I also would like I see our HR director, I would like for him to please come up and go over the policy we had in place and where we are going at this point as of, what time is it? 12:23.
Hello, Jim Sexton, Human Resources Director. Just to give a brief history of where we were and where we've come, we used to have a different organizational structure within that office. We had several commission meetings where we brought back some survey data that showed how other counties do it in our surrounding districts of how they do the commission office. It was finally decided that we would go with an option that provided individual commissioner assistance to each commissioner. They would not be at-will employees. They would be county employees. And there would also be an additional position added, and that was the receptionist position. In crunching the numbers, when we changed organizations from the old to the new, there was going to be a projected savings or a reduced budget of about $38,000, give or take, based on vacancies and overtime and things like that. We went to the new structure with the receptionist, and with that, the commissioner chairman's assistant would then take on some additional duties within that office. They would be the payroll rep, if you will. They'd enter data into payroll. They'd be the assistant that would make sure contracts are signed and do a lot of the follow-up work prior and after these commission meetings. There's as Commissioner Ballin said, there's a lot of papers that flow in and out of that office, and that chairman's assistant kind of has that extra responsibility to do that. It would then decided that commissioner assistants wouldn't stay necessarily with their district. It would be if their commissioner was made the chairman, that they would go with that commissioner to the chairmanship, if you will, which actually really doesn't change their district. So, but the assistants would not rotate around per commissioners, but they would keep their position in the event that somebody is not reelected or decides not to run for reelection. They would keep their position and just work for the new commissioner when they came on board. I'll be happy to answer any question. I'm not sure exactly how you want me to proceed from here. I do know the position is in place. We have filled it, and the person started last Friday. But I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Was there any
Friday?
You okay? Was there any unusual practice in hiring this position?
No, there wasn't any unusual practices. Because we are under a hiring freeze, every position now that becomes vacant goes in front of the county administrator for a decision whether to fill or not to fill. I believe Beth Casano, the chairman's assistant, went to Mr. Baird and requested the position to be filled. He authorized us to proceed and the HR department to post the position, collect applications and resumes, screen those, provide those to the assistant, who then conducted interviews, who then made a selection, who then notified HR. We made the offer, and the acceptance was had, so we made a start date, but nothing unusual.
Right. Mr. Beard, can you add anything?
No, actually, we just followed procedure like we would for hiring any position. This position I felt was warranted. We don't, so we went ahead and advertised and also took applications.
So at this point, this is unusual. So what is the extent of when this job is extenuated? Extinguished, sorry.
Well, I guess based on the motion that I've heard today is that effectively, I would say today that the position is eliminated for what at least sounds like a 30-day period to be looked at. So we'll notify the employee today that unfortunately their services are no longer needed with Indian River County at this time. Sounds like your commissioner assistants are going to need to get together and decide how they're going to cover that front reception area. And, hopefully they come up with an effective plan, and we'll reevaluate in 30 days. You guys will get back together and decide whether you need it back or if it's working.
Okay. At this point, as you, Mr. Davis, this was your idea and responsibility. Would your assistant be able to lend a helping hand with all the paperwork that goes through the office, since you're vice chairman? My assistant will be absent tomorrow, and there's lots of paperwork to do.
Madam Chair, we're all going to have to do more with less. And I understand by eliminating this position, it just makes that worse.
No, I'm not. I'm talking about process as of for tomorrow morning. My assistant will not be here.
If your assistant needs any assistance, let me know.
I'm letting you know.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. I'll see to it that gets accomplished. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Madam Chair,
yes.
At the risk of being out of line, several times in the past we've brought things up at the county commission meetings, and you, along with the other commissioners, have brought it not only to my attention but the attention of the public that most of the mistakes that we've made at the county commission has been made when we made changes on the fly. Now, we took a great deal of time and investigation and input to set up the system that we put in, and it seemed to have been working well. Making this decision on the fly does not make any sense whatsoever, seeing as how the new lady that we've already hired is in position, who seems very qualified. She's on a probationary period anyway for a period of time. So until you come up with a better plan that you can actually show that there's a savings, why don't we leave the position that you all voted in place under a great deal of background in place until we do that and bring that forward? Because I'm telling you, I think when you look into this, you'll find out it's not black and white. It's not cut and dry. You're not saving money. So until we can prove that, let's leave the lady in place so we function properly as a team. That's what I would suggest, Mr. Davis.
I appreciate the suggestion, Mr. Pelley.
Okay, let's go on to the next item, which is Special Districts and Boards, Environmental Control Board, Report of Activities during fourth quarter, October through December 2007, memorandum dated January 30, 2008, 235 to 237. May I have a motion?
Move to accept the report.
Second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0, and meeting is adjourned.